right, welcome back to the No Hard Feelings podcast. We're here with Dylan Reese, artist, rapper, all of the above. Dylan, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you
Yeah, of
reaching
course,
out.
of course. We're super excited. Yeah, just to be able to have you on here, really. So, I guess we can get right into it. So you've been releasing music for a while. I did, a little bit of homework since 2010, right?
Yep. Yeah, right around then, some point. I don't even remember like the exact time where I started, but yeah, it's been a long time. About 10
Yeah.
years or so.
So I would imagine then you were pretty young when you started releasing music. Was that something you always knew that you wanted to get into, or how did you come about like releasing music?
Yeah, so I mean it was in high school and I had some homies that we were just like I don't even remember exactly how it started, but we had like a rock band mic and we were just like making some dumbass songs like parodies basically like
Yeah,
to
yeah,
popular songs and like finding the instrumentals and then we would do like webcam videos like that looked way worse than this, especially 10 years ago.
yeah,
uh, and use a rock band mic and then just like put them out on YouTube. And it was all jokes, it was like more comedy than anything.
yeah,
But, those found their way on YouTube or MySpace or whatever it was at the time. And kind of floated around the school and people were watching them and it was funny. And like to the point where like even like the teachers and stuff were watching them. So it
that's
was
dope.
kind of just like a little fun thing that we would do on the weekend, like, yo, let's make a video or whatever. And then as we were doing it, there was two, three, four of us sometimes, and I would be like writing everybody's parts because I would finish mine so fast.
Yeah,
With obviously, I had no experience, obviously. Um, and then I just kind of realized, like, yo, I'm actually not bad at writing, like, even though the content is obviously completely a joke, but I can like rhyme words pretty easily and it
yeah,
kind of comes naturally. So I was like helping everybody else, and they were just like, yo, you should actually like go try to make music. I mean, you already love hip hop music, you love soul music, like just go try it. So I like
yeah.
took the mic to my house and I was on my my bedroom, my parents' house, and I was just like recording so much no mixing, no nothing. It was just straight to Facebook or whatever,
That's
on
awesome.
dropping mixtapes on Line Links if you even know what that is.
Yeah,
And yeah, it was just yeah. So it was just literally a joke and just kind of evolved, um, little by little, and here we are. I don't know. I just kind of never stopped.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, it's been
Takes
a
a lot,
journey, man.
takes a lot of dedication, especially that path. I mean, me and a couple of my buddies like make some music to ourselves, and like
Uh-huh.
we're not at the stage you are. Obviously, you've been doing it for 10 years. We've been doing it for just about a year or so, but it's
Yeah,
like you definitely can see that it's not something that happens quick. It may for those handful of people throughout a certain amount of time, but for most of the people that want to succeed in that career, it takes time and dedication and stuff like that, and it just goes to show.
for sure, man. I mean, especially when you're from a place where there isn't really a music scene, especially like during that time where making music in your house and like putting it out wasn't really like a known thing that people do. Like you think of these rappers like we were listening to Lil Wayne and shit, and I'm just like, yo, like how does he even make music? Like he has a big studio and there's 20 people involved and like it's
yeah,
like almost like it's not real, right? Because you just see it on TV and shit, and it's like, whoa, like I could never do that. So it was really just a supreme level of blind confidence that I just thought like, oh, I could do that, even though I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't even know like what mixing and master was. I didn't know anything about like graphic design or branding or anything that goes along with like everything I'm doing now. Didn't
yeah,
even that wasn't even part of my mind. I was just like, I just want to rap and have fun. So I'm just gonna try, right? So it's like that's gonna take even longer rather than like, if maybe you have a family member or a friend or people that are like in the industry and they can help you like, yo, here's how you start. Go to
yeah,
this studio, go to this engineer, go do this and that. We can get you on a show or blah blah blah. Like there was none of that. Like I mean, you guys know you're from upstate New York. There's not a
yeah.
ton going on, and
No,
obviously it's a different time now where there's a lot more examples of people like in small towns or even just doing it, making music at their house. You're just being an entrepreneur in general from your house is way more known. Like this is like barely internet, you know what I mean? Like I had a MySpace page and a Facebook profile, and like that's it. There was no streaming, there was no SoundCloud. It was just like it felt impossible.
Mhm.
I feel like that's like you kind of like fell into it that way, but that's like the right way to go about it is like you said, you just kind of like doing it. So you just kept doing it like with like that blind faith that you talked about. And you're like, yeah, I can do this.
Yeah.
Like it's not even a thing. And then there's so much other things that go with it, but you've gotten to the point where you are today because you just never stopped.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. That's definitely true.
So you're like obviously full-time music and everything like that. When did you decide to make the jump to make that like your career?
So it's kind of a 90 part answer to that because it's like I've always been kind of a hustler in one way or another. Like
Yeah.
I've never had a job before, like
Yeah.
go to work type shit. Like, that's just never been something I did. Like I had multiple hustles. I was a barber, like high school and college. Like that's how I was making money.
Yeah.
And then so basically like during college is when I kind of made the jump, at least in my head. Like I wasn't making money yet, but I was still in school, so it was like I was in the dorms, blah blah blah. I didn't really need to be making like a sustainable amount of money to stay alive. It was like
Yeah.
you're 19 or whatever. But I basically went to college and I played basketball at a Division 3 school, like in the Boston area.
Oh,
And
nice.
then during my freshman year of college, I started. So this is already 3-4 years into making music, even though I had no idea what I was doing. But I had music videos out. I've done a couple shows, whatever. Then I started getting opportunities to do different shows, like whether that be in Boston or even in New York or Connecticut, or whatever. And I had to keep passing on them because I had basketball practice or study hall. Like playing a sport in college is a full-time job. I don't know if you guys do that, or I'm sure you know people that do at least.
Yeah, we both played baseball
There you
together.
go. So
Yeah.
you know the grind of like collegiate athletics on any level. I don't even care if it's community college.
Oh yeah.
It's a full time, like you got to be there all the time. So basically, my freshman year, I just decided like, all right, I'm gonna give up playing basketball to try to do this, and that enough was to me was like, you basically have no choice and there's no turning back. Like you have to just make this happen because I had worked my whole life until that point to get a scholarship to go play basketball. So like the fact that I was able to punt that in my head was already like, this is what I'm gonna fucking do.
Yeah.
So I just stayed in school and I graduated, but took those 3 years and like tried to learn as much as I could about other things like around the music industry. Like I learned how to engineer, I learned graphics. So I knew like at the very least, if I wasn't able to be like, a touring act or like make money off streaming yet, which that wasn't really a thing yet. Um, if that wasn't clicking by the time I was out of school, I would at least have other skills to like put myself into position to make money, like helping other artists do things. So I was doing that for a handful of years before, before I got to the point where I am now of actually making money of like from my own art. And now like I'm wearing a ton of hats and doing a ton of those things for other artists like behind the scenes on top of my own shit. So I'm just like super busy at these points because I've kind of forced myself into doing a ton of things at once and just maximizing my skill set. So I guess the turning point was in school, but I mean, it took years of just grinding and mixing records and doing a bunch of shit that I didn't necessarily want to be doing. Like, it's not ideal, but obviously the goal was to be working for myself in some capacity.
Yeah, I think
So
that's really smart that you took the time while you're in college. First of all, like you were young enough to realize that, hey, this is the jump I want to take. I'm super passionate about this. I want to make this, this is my goal. This is what I want to do.
yep.
And then you learned everything around the music industry too. So even if, say it didn't pan out for you, you would maybe have other opportunities within the industry.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I mean, I graduated college in 2015. I'm 27 now, so I'm like a lot older than people think I am because I got the baby face. But even that, like, I didn't know what the hell was going on in 2015. Like you always think you know what you're doing until you
Yeah.
hit that kind of next level of like, you meet this person or get in this situation, and you're like, damn, I didn't know any of this, or just
For sure. Yeah.
every day you're learning more and more. And I'm sure 5 years from now, I'll look back at the year I had in 2020 and be like, what an idiot. Like, or you know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah,
hopefully
yeah,
not. It's totally possible. Like, just keep going, man.
Yeah.
yeah. You learn new things every day, and that's what happens when you're passionate about what you're doing. Is you want to learn those things, so it naturally comes to you like that. I feel like.
Yeah, no doubt.
So I know we talked a little bit that you're in LA now, and you grew up in Chicopee, Massachusetts, right?
That's
Um,
correct.
so can you talk about like just a little about like moving across country? Like, was that? I can imagine that's pretty scary. Like taking the leap to get all the way across the country.
Yeah. In all honesty, it wasn't too scary, and I've had these conversations with other people who have done it before me or after me, or just haven't done it because they're like worried of like, what if I fail? And it's like, yeah, that's kind of the point. Like, you want to kind of put yourself in the position to fail, because then you'll learn from how you got to that point and make changes, right?
For
So
sure.
if you're just like stagnant and staying in the same place and doing the same things, it's kind of hard to make the progress that you actually want to see, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it sounds simple when you say it out loud, but it's like it's a lot deeper. You got to just fucking do it. But what did make it a bit easier was I knew that I was gonna move with my best friend, Bob, and we've been best friends since he was 6. Like, he's doing a ton of things now. He used to do his own podcast also, um, and he was like my tour manager for a little bit, based off of no experience. Just that was the only guy that would do it,
Mhm.
and I just kind of brought him with the first couple tours. But that's my guy. That's my right hand man, and he was a year behind me in college, and we both knew like we're gonna move to LA. So I had that extra year to go back to my parents' house in Chicopee
Mhm.
and just stack bread and figure it out and build relationships. And then we actually took another year to like set himself up. So I had 2 full years after college until we moved out here in 2017. And honestly, like before I came here, I had visited LA for a week or a month at a time, numerous times, like between graduating and living here.
Yeah.
So whether that was to shoot videos or take meetings with certain people or work with whoever, and I was trying to tour as much as I could in that spot too, because I was basically living rent free, like with my parents,
For
and that was
sure.
a blessing, to have that kind of gap of like, all right, let's just stack bread and then just go figure it out.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, we kind of had that window of like, we know this is coming, and we were over prepared and over planned, both financially and like from a social aspect. Like, we knew
Mhm.
kind of we didn't know our way around LA, obviously. Like, I definitely still don't, it's so big, but we knew kind of like, all right, these are the pockets that you want to be in. Like, this person lives over here, this person lives over there. I knew, a couple dozen homies that could
Yeah.
be a business relationship or just like a homie. So it was a bit easier, especially doing it with him also. And then I also live with another one of my homies who we actually played college ball together, and he's from out here originally. So it's a good squad, and we've been out here for almost 3 years. Yeah, it's good, man. It wasn't as hard as you would think, but I think
Yeah.
that's just because we were over prepared.
For
Yeah.
sure. I wanted to talk about how you said you took those 2 years and you lived at your parents' house, and I want to give
Yeah,
you some sort of props because I think that takes a lot of humility to
yeah.
like get out of college and maybe all your friends are getting their own apartment or whatever, and you said, "Nah, I'm gonna stay home. I'm gonna like you said like stack your bread, get everything figured out." And now you took one step back, we took 3 steps forward.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I went to private school, and a lot of those people just went into like corporate, corporate America. Like, it was actually mostly like primarily a nursing school. So there's a lot of girls that did nursing, and then a lot of homies that did like business stuff or whatever. And 90% of people just went into corporate,
Yeah.
because they used a degree and then went, okay, this is my job now, move up in this company, blah blah blah, right? Which
Yeah.
is great, and that's kind of like the beginning of like adulthood, I guess, when we're all 23 or whatever it is, 22, graduating college. And I just knew that I wanted to do something different. I have a communications degree. It's fucking useless, at least for the way I've lived my life. But you know, I knew what my goal was, and like it took that time to prepare myself and like take those steps and learn. And I knew if I just like dipped to LA, like I would have fell on my face because I wouldn't have enough money to survive. I didn't know enough about the music industry to like be resourceful and find other ways to stay afloat out here. It's fucking expensive, man. Like you can't
For
just,
sure.
you know, Massachusetts is just not expensive. And what I grew up around is not where I'm at now. Like, you
Yeah.
know,
Oh, for sure.
Oh,
so it's
definitely got to be like a, I wouldn't say culture shock, but it's definitely like a different environment. You know, I mean,
definitely,
even with the people, the population. I mean, I'm from Syracuse, which isn't it's not a huge city. I mean, it's 300,000 people, but I went to LA for a week, and I was like, wow, there's a lot of people, like
yeah,
millions of people within a couple square miles. Like that's unreal.
yeah, man. I think there's like 22 million people or something in LA. It's crazy. And
It's
my
crazy.
hometown is 50,000. You know, like
Yeah,
it's not a big place. You know,
for
I know
sure.
everybody there,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Little sidebar. How's the whole COVID situation out in LA?
Um, I've been in the house and staying away from everybody, so
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely not good. I don't think it's
Yeah.
good anyway.
No,
Yeah.
no, yeah. I
But
just want, stay
but
safe. Stay safe
yeah,
out there for
for
sure.
sure. Yeah.
But getting kind of back to the music, I listen to a lot of your music and I do really like it. I like the mix of like kind of like the R&B hooks and the like you got a lot of bass heavy songs too, which I liked. Can you
Thank
talk
you.
about like your process and like making a song like from start to finish?
Yeah, that's changed a lot actually in the past like year, because I feel like I've learned a ton about songwriting in general.
Hmm.
Because you know I come from like the hip hop roots. I was only a rapper for the first 4 or 5 years. I was like recording music, just because I didn't think that was really. I didn't think singing was something that I could like learn how to do or something I was even really capable of. But I, you know, just taste wise, I've always loved R&B and like soul music
Hmm.
from, you know, 70s, 80s, Billy Ocean, Kool and the Gang, you name it,
Yeah,
right? But I
for
was
sure.
like, yeah, I can't make that type of music. I don't have a good voice. I wasn't born with it, blah, blah, blah. So it's like, I definitely always, at least before like, you know, this year, I've always like wrote with the approach of like a rapper. Like there's like a lot of words and it's like multi-syllabic rhyming. That's just kind of what I always gravitated towards. And then as I kind of made that transition into doing only R&B stuff, which is I did for like 2 years, because I wanted to like teach myself how to sing, and I was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. And now I'm getting to the point where I'm kind of balancing both and going back and forth pretty seamlessly, even within the same song sometimes.
Yeah.
And I've learned a ton about pop music and the way those songs are approached. It's like it's hard to explain if you're not deep into it, but it's like legitimately a math equation. You know, it's all about the structure of the song and the way certain chords feel at certain times, like in relation to each other. It's not just like what's going to sound cool here, or
Yeah.
like what do I want to say. You know, it's like that's the easiest part ever, like to me now, because I've just you know I've made hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of songs, like literally. So
Yeah.
it's like you know I'm trying to nail like that pop structure every time, but then also sprinkle in the genres that I know how. Like
Right.
if you know my song "Crucial," which is like one of the
Yeah.
newer ones,
Yeah.
like that's like a legitimate like that's a pop song to me in the way I wrote it. But
Hmm.
it's obviously no one would hear it and be like, "What a pop smash!" Like it just it's structured that way, you know. But it's like some ignorant shit where I'm just talking shit. I'm not saying anything. It's like just some fun music, right?
Yeah.
But I spent way more time on the structure of that music and the way I layered more vocals than I did like, here's my bars and you know, it's
Yeah.
like I can make music like that in my fucking sleep at this point. So
Right.
That's,
it's
I feel like some artists go that route too. It's not always the bars route. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
You look at a lot of the artists that are mainstream or trenders, or some look at some of the best in the game, as they say, like Lil Baby. He goes a lot of sometimes bars, but he
mhm,
also has trendy hooks, and that gets people on the song instant. No matter
yeah,
bad verses or not.
For sure. Yeah. So yeah, I think my approach is always different depending on what I'm working on, but it's definitely always like melody and structure
Yeah,
first, and then I'm thinking about lyrics and like concept secondary for sure.
gotcha.
Um,
Because the lyrics kind of come easier to you, is that?
yeah,
Or
I feel like I'm kind of past the threshold of like I'm never gonna run out of things to say,
yeah,
whether they're like whether they're more like reflective and I'm like talking about my life, or
yeah,
it's like this is a song that I think would exist in this space and work well for this or that. It's not always like autobiographical, if that makes sense, you know?
yeah, for sure. So, your latest album that you put out, Pretty Pretty, was released in December of 2019, right?
Yep.
So, how long does like a project like that take you from start to finish?
Um, so 2019, I was on tour a lot. So it was kind of like scattered in between when I wasn't on tour.
Hmm.
Um, when I finished the trying to think of when I started it. I got off the tour with the Hold Up in March, or in yeah, the end of March. I got off that tour, and I was with Shamrock, who is my keyboard player, like in my band on tour.
Hmm.
I was having him play a lot of stuff on the records as well because we kind of found a groove on like within my touring crew, and I was like, I know this guy's gonna be here all the time. It's really easy if we have him playing on the records and then just doing live interpretations of his own
For sure.
shit rather than someone else's, and then I have to bring him in and almost teach him the music again, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, and I don't know shit about like music technically, so I'm not teaching him anything. I said that wrong. He's a fucking genius, but uh, basically we're at my crib after that tour. We had like a few days before he was gonna fly home because he's from Massachusetts as well.
Hmm.
And we made two of those beats in my house, like with just me and him on keys. So that's how we started it. I didn't know that I was starting an album, but those are the first two songs, and those were Sweat and Math. Um, and then basically I took off in June and I went back to Massachusetts, back to my parents' house. I haven't been there since I moved.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just gonna bring my studio and not talk to anybody, and just go back to like the studio where I started in my basement, and just try to write as much as I can because like I was on tour so much and I was in LA just doing the same shit all the time. Like I felt a lot of pressure to like go do a session with this person, go do this, go do that. So I
Yeah.
wanted to like detach myself and just have a new kind of headspace. So I wrote like 80% of the album in June when I was home, even if it was just like skeletons of production and
Yeah.
whatever it may be. But yeah, we basically finished it right before I left for tour again, which is in the beginning or in the middle of October. So it was like a few months up and down,
Yeah.
back and
Yeah.
forth. And it was, yeah, like I said, it was kind of just like in between
For sure.
when
In
I had to
between
be on the
tours.
road and shit. Yeah.
Yeah. I
But that's
like I like
definitely my favorite album that I've made for sure.
yeah. I like that story of you going back home and writing and just kind of getting away from everything. And I think, like, I listened to the album. I love the album, by
Thank
the
you.
way. And I think anybody who listens to this podcast and listens to the album has a new appreciation for the music because they know the story. You know, you were in LA, you felt all this pressure, so you end up coming home and you wrote all this music. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because when I do projects, especially like in the R&B and soul space, I want to make those the more like reflective and personal,
Hmm.
like stories, you know, and like it's kind of like an update on here's my perspective on life at this time. That's kind of how I've looked at it because, you know, I've made like 15 albums at this point. Like, granted, the first like 11 were fucking dog shit, and I had no idea what I was doing, and they're gone now. But I've had a lot of moments of like, this is my concept for this project. This is how I'm doing it. So it's like they're kind of all just a continuation of each other, but it's not as direct as like here's the story, here's where it stopped, and here's where it starts. It's kind of just
Yeah.
like it's just an update.
For sure.
So I felt like I needed to get back to like where I started in order to like kind of trigger those thoughts and just have that perspective again. Like
Yeah, I like
just
that.
kind
I
of
like that.
Because last time I was in that studio, I was like, damn, how am I gonna get on tour? I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Like, how do I reach this person? How can I make money? How can I do this?
Yeah, yeah,
And then
yeah.
like when I come back, it's like because I have time off from tour. Not that I'm some like international superstar now, but it's like the shit's like working and like
Yeah.
I deserve it type shit. Like that was kind of my my thought process when making that, and it was very yeah. That's my favorite album. I love every song on that.
That's really cool to hear. I like that, hearing the backstory behind the music that we're listening to, you know. So obviously you're talking about like how like your perspective on life has big influence on your music, but talk more about people. I know we've touched on it earlier, but like who are the biggest influencers of your music, would you say?
Um,
Or like who you grew up listening to, like that kind of thing.
Pharrell, uh, Michael Jackson, um, Marvin Gaye, Justin Timberlake, Billy Ocean, John Bellion,
Oh,
uh, Frank Ocean, obviously Drake.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
Drake took over the world, man. You can't really not be inspired by Drake. You're just lying if you're not.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
feel
there
I feel 100% because so many people just like I don't know, just like so many people nowadays say they don't like Drake. I mean, Jared, I'm not coming at you. I'm not saying Jared.
Okay, no, 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 hold on,
You,
hold on,
you
hold on.
like
Let me
Drake's
let me
music.
explain
You
myself.
just
Let me explain myself.
like Drake's music. You just don't like Drake as a person.
No,
I
no,
want
no,
to
no,
hear
no, no.
this. I want to hear this.
Okay, I like Drake. Like I like his music. Like it's fine, but he's like not anywhere near my top personally.
That's crazy to me.
Just my opinion.
Hey, I
Understand?
respect it.
Understandable.
Like I like
I
like I listen to his music. I'm not saying he's a bad musician, and I appreciate everything that he's done. He's
Yeah,
just not in my personal top
understandable.
I respect it. Who's your personal top
all time.
or just whatever? Like if you had like pick 5 artists and be like these are like my go-tos this month or whatever, or like for the next
Okay,
year you can only listen to these 5 people.
Yeah, for the next year, you can only listen to these 5 artists. Who would it be, Jared?
Mac Miller.
Yep.
Um, I'd probably have to throw a little baby in there.
Okay.
I'd probably have to. I've been. It's funny that you mentioned John Bellion because I've been listening to a lot of John Bellion lately. And then I would say 4 and 5 are like alternative artists. Like I put Oasis, the band, in there, and
Champagne Supernova song is on there.
and five's tough. Probably the Smiths from the '80s. I'd put in
Okay,
there. So
I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that.
yeah,
Not a bad
But
list.
Drake is just like pretty much objectively just the best. Like it's not even really a conversation. Like I get that it might not be your favorite or whatever, but like he just doesn't fucking miss, man. And his versatility is just something that everybody should be striving for, you know.
Yeah, that's true. He's put out a variety of artwork. You should say it's just unreal. Like the way that he can touch you in any different vibe, whether it be whether you're getting hype or whether you're getting in your feels or what. I mean, like, come on,
Yeah.
Marvin's Room was what one of the best in your feel song of the decade. Probably still is, honestly.
Yeah.
Like it turns
Yeah.
on everybody's listening. Like,
He's the goat, bro. He's the goat. But anyways, yeah. I mean, there's dozens of cats that I'm super inspired by. Um, but it's basically just anything with like a ton of soul. Like
yeah.
that's Music Soul Child, that whole bag, like and then like if you want to go the rap world, it's like Big L, Tribe, that whole space. Like I had a whole era of like I was only listening to that type of shit.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, man. I mean, there's too many to name. It's crazy.
For sure, for
A
sure.
lot of talented people.
So speaking of like other people in the music industry, anyone who's just like looked at your like Spotify profile or anything can see it. Like you've collaborated with a lot of people. So like, who are some of your favorite people to work with, or that you worked with in the past?
Um, One of my favorites was the most recent one with Sammy Adams. Just being from Massachusetts, like he was someone that I always look up to. You know, like the first concert I ever went to was his, because I was like probably 15 or something, like right around the time where I started writing shit or whatever, and he was like 19, and it was just like not that much older than me, but he's fucking crushing it, and to have him, because he, after I dropped that record Crucial, he had just reached out and was like, yo, this shit's fucking crazy, like let's make a song together. And I was like, bet, I got some shit like for this project. So we just got on FaceTime and just did it, and it was super like seamless. We were just on the same page, both musically and just like strategically. It was very easy and just seamless. Like it was just,
Yeah.
it was great. And he showed a ton of support, which is obviously not always the case when you're collaborating with people one way or another. People have their own agendas, which I totally understand, because I'm not always, the first one to be like, here's every feature I ever did my whole life. Like, I'm not gonna promote that 10 times a day the way Sammy just did mine. So
Yeah.
it felt very collaborative and back and forth, and he's just a great dude.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like one of those ones where it was like, it just came back full circle. Like, damn, it's cool that I get to work with this dude, and like, he reached out to me even, and it was just like, damn, that's cool.
For sure.
But also the Hold Up, who I mentioned before, I toured with him last year. He taught me a ton when we were working together, just kind of about what we were talking about before, like the pop shit, and just like looking at music almost as like math. And I've thanked him so many times. Like, so he might hear this and be like, all right, dude, I fucking get it. Like, stop talking about this. But it really did change the way I like look at stuff. And he's someone that I've looked up to also. Like, he brought me out on his tour, and that was the first kind of like great look I had touring wise, where I knew there was going to be a few hundred people in every single city that had no idea who the fuck I was, whether or not my fans were coming out. And it was just like a level up to just do that. And he's completely independent and just one of those guys that's been touring for a decade, and like you might not even necessarily know him, but like he has a real cult core fan base, and it's fucking tight. So that was a great collab that we got to do. We did it after tour. And then I mean, I have Paul Wall on my album, so that pretty much just blew my fucking mind.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, dude, there's a ton. There's
Yeah.
so many. But those are some of the standouts, at least like what they mean to me.
For sure. So do you have like, you're like, this is hypothetical, but do you have your eye on anyone like for the future, like anyone that you would like potentially want to work with in the future, I guess?
Yeah, always, man. I'm a big fan of collaboration. One, again, I think you just learn from it, and you get to kind of share that space with somebody, even if it's just over, collaborating virtually, which is something I do a lot, just out of convenience, But
For sure.
you can learn a ton from doing that, and also it's just a smart thing to do strategically. Like, I didn't start with like a core audience, but I've collaborated with so many people that I feel like I have sprinkled in, like, got some fans from working with this guy, got some fans from working with this band, got some fans for touring with them or whatever. And it's like, it's just a smart thing to do. And anybody who's like, yeah, I don't want to do features and I don't want to work with anybody, it's just like, I feel like you're kind of doing yourself a disservice, And as someone new, I feel like that's a big piece of advice that I would give to people that are trying to get themselves out there, because it's just a way to organically reach new people,
For
because there's
sure.
a ton of things you can do marketing wise. You can run ads, you can do X, Y, and Z, but at the end of the day, those are people that just might see you on a screen and they may or may not give a shit. But if you have a song with somebody they already like, that chance of like conversion is going to be much higher.
Oh, for sure.
I'm just a big fan of collaboration and trying to, work together towards the same goal. Especially, I mean, obviously, if I have to like the person's music, it's not just like, let me just go get this guy because he got this many streams or whatever. It's like, gives a fuck. But yeah, man. I mean, I'm always working with new people, and I don't even really want to say too much just because I don't know what's gonna come out and what isn't.
For sure.
But
Yeah. No. Yeah.
yeah, I got a ton of stuff in the works that I'm stoked about for sure.
That's all you gotta say. Ton of stuff in the works. Work. You wait on it, y'all. It's coming. It's coming.
That's cool how you equated like, you know, you collaborate with someone that you fuck with, and then their fans will hear you, and like the conversion rate. I kind of equate that to like us doing the podcast. Like we have episodes, it's just me and him, and like like the people who already listen to us might like those episodes, but like bring a guy like you on here, it's just gonna mutually benefit the both of us because, you know, the people who already listen to us are gonna hear about you if they don't know about you, and then the other way around maybe too.
Exactly,
I just think it's the same kind of thing, you know.
Definitely, man. Yeah.
So you've been putting out music since 2010, and I would assume that with like the consistency that you provide, you spend a lot of time like in the studio. So what can you talk about like that atmosphere a little bit? Like what's it like just being in the studio?
Yeah. I mean, I'm in it right now. I have a studio in my house. This is the only place I work at.
Yeah.
But it's nothing fancy, you know. Like, I got a laptop, I got an iMac right here, interface, monitors. It's like, it's not really all it's chalked up to be. It's kind of what you make it, especially when you're engineering yourself. It doesn't make sense really at all, especially to me, but really at all, at least the way I see it, to like spend a bunch of money and get in big studios and like do that whole thing, because it's like, all right, you get a cool picture for the gram, and it's like your song still might sound like shit, and it's kind of just like a waste of everybody's time.
Yeah, for sure.
So I feel like the best scenario is just wherever you're comfortable, you know. And I'm comfortable recording by myself in my room, or now in my studio. I have a separate room, thank God. Because in the old house, I was recording in the living room, and it was a fucking mess. But just wherever you're comfortable, you know, like I feel like that's my space. Like, it's kind of like, you know, I could shut the door and light a candle and put certain visuals on the big screen here and just kind of do my thing and zone out and just kind of let my mind go where it's going to go, you know.
For sure.
And you know what's funny now is like people always ask me that. It's like, dude, how are you putting so much music out? You should be like, you must be recording all day. And it's like, I've recorded the least amount this year than I have ever, that I've put out like the most music, because I just got myself so far ahead on like releases. Like I could put out like 6 more albums like next week if I wanted to. But it's just not smart to do that, you know?
Yeah.
I got a question about that. So, I when I write, I mean, I listen to the beats, you know, and I start writing. I try to get ahead as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But I get to a point where, like, let's say I have 16 songs left, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna drop a song a week, and I'm just gonna keep dropping a song a week, just to get my name out there.
Yeah.
But I get done with the 16th song, and I listen to it again. I'm like, okay, it's better than the first one, but I don't even want to drop the first one because I just want to drop my best. Now,
right.
do you just still send it? Like, do you just go like that? Because I feel like if you don't do it, if you don't just release the first one, you're just gonna keep setting yourself back. But like, I don't know. How do you go at that? Because I mean,
Yeah, so I think the answer is different depending on like where you're at, you know? Like, if you feel like you have kind of your audience at least at its core, then I think you should only be dropping like the stuff that you really believe in, because there's people that are ready to be disappointed. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So it's like you don't want to put out something that even you know is like, this is kind of so, and then people are disappointed by it, then it's your fault. You know what I'm saying? But I think if you're in a spot where you're still finding that, and obviously like I'm still trying to reach new fans. It's not like I'm just talking to my people, but they do exist, you know, and I need to think about that, because those are the people that are holding me up. Those are the people that are listening to my music every day and every night, and like they care about what I do, right? So I took that approach that you're saying, you know, 2016, 2017, where I literally just dropped everything I made, because I was just gonna let the market and the people decide what they like and what they don't. Especially because I was doing so much experimenting with genre and whatnot. Like, I'd have a pop track, I'd have an EDM track, I'd have a boom bap rap song, I'd have an R&B ballad with just guitar, whatever it is, right? Even if I was like, I feel like this ain't the one, I just put it out, and it's like you have no risk, because if it flops, who gives a shit? You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody's really paying attention.
yeah.
So if it hits, then it's like, oh yeah, of course, like I knew that show was gonna hit, even if it didn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've had a ton of those, bro. Like, because I put a song out similar to like what you were saying. I put a song out every 10 days for 2 years straight. So like, obviously, not every one of those songs is gonna be my favorite song, and not every one of those songs is gonna perform well on SoundCloud or Spotify or whatever it is, right? But there was plenty of them, like 5, 6 of them, where if I really thought about it, it was like I would not drop this song because it's not my best work. And those are the ones that did better and got me a new fan, and they heard the shit that I actually do like, and they like that even more because they're like overly impressed by it, right? So I think there's like different ways to look at it, and I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong answer as long as you're being consistent, because the last thing you want to do is sit in your house and overthink yourself to death, and then you have, oh, I haven't dropped music in 5 months because I've been critiquing myself and being too hard on myself. Like, let it fly and just let people decide, you know?
For sure. I like that too because I feel like, if you like, I don't make music. I know absolutely nothing about music, but I feel like if you make a song and you're like, this is like, I don't like the song at all. Like, but like, who says who? You? Like, the market could love it. Like,
Yeah,
even your
totally.
core fans that you're like, maybe like I don't like the song, but your core fan base, that could be what they're looking for. You know what I mean?
For sure. And yeah, I mean, I never put anything out that I was like, I don't fuck with this.
Yeah.
But I put out plenty of songs where I was like, this is not my best song right now. Like, I
Well,
have ten
that's
other
kind of what I
ones
was
that
shooting
are,
for. Yeah.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So, doing my homework on you a little bit too, I noticed you have a pretty consistent touring history. You've brought up touring multiple times. Can you talk about like what it's like to be on tour? I don't know, like I can imagine it's fun, like fun as fuck. You know what I
Like,
mean?
like, yeah, dude. Like, I don't know. Like, I've always like just wanted to experience something like that. Like, it's got to be dope, right?
Dude, so here's the thing, like, it's the funnest thing you'll ever do, and it's also like the hardest thing ever. Especially when you're at like my level or lower, which is obviously the only places that I've been. Uh, when you don't have like funding from either a label or like a booking agent, like I'm like as independent gets, right? Like everything that happens comes out of my fucking personal bank account. Like it's literally all on my shoulders, right? So you think like I'm going on tour and it's like, fuck yeah, party for a month, go nuts, hit the hotel, there's girls everywhere, you're having a good time. That's, yeah, sure. But you're also bringing out, you know, the way I do it, I want to perform with a band, right? So it's like I have a guitar player and a keyboard player. I have a person doing video and photo, and then I have my tour manager who drives, does merch, does everything, right? So there's 5 or 6 dudes that I'm basically just responsible for, like from a regular level. Like I have to like take care of these motherfuckers and like make sure no one dies. And then also I have 6 dudes to pay, right? Because they all have a job and I'm
Yeah.
employing them for the next 4 weeks or whatever it is. I'm paying for everybody's food, everybody's hotel, or renting a fucking van. We gotta gas it up. Like the shit is expensive past the point where I even want to say how expensive it is, right?
Oh yeah.
And that's just at a spot where, I'm making money for the shows and making money on merch, right? But that's all just going back into the fucking cycle of bullshit of everything I have to pay for. So it's like, in that perspective, because like I don't have people to do that for me. Like I don't have an agent or a label like crunching numbers and here's your budget for the day. Go have fun and whatever, right? I'm doing all that myself. So in that way, it's the most stressful time possible. Like there's
Yeah.
so much pressure and stress on my shoulders. And if something fucks up, like it's because I fucked up or because one of my guys fucked up and now I have to go straighten it out, right? And it's like now I have a great crew and like that doesn't really happen. Like we all are kind of in sync and like that's like my family, right? At this point. But it's like it's really hard to find that kind of uh chemistry, I guess, and like just
For
like
sure.
the pocket of like this is how we all work together, you know. Sham is snoring. I'm about to beat his ass, and but I can't because but it's like there's so many just nuances that are so difficult that people don't see and think about touring. It's like so difficult.
Yeah.
But it is definitely the funnest thing you could possibly do because even through the struggles and everything, like we all become such close friends. And then like every night when you're at the show, you know, say I'm in like a place I've never been before, like we're in fucking Milwaukee or some shit, right? And it's like this ain't even my show. I'm opening for somebody. If I have 6 people that came out to that show to see me because they saw me on Instagram or whatever, that's the best feeling. Like everything is worth it, right? Because it's like one, you made those 6 people's night. Second, they're definitely gonna come back to see you because you took the time out and you took a photo and you signed something or whatever the case may be, right? And like that's the whole point of this. Like all the streaming numbers is cool, like whatever, you're getting money for features, all the cool shit, right? Fuck all that. Like if you don't have fans coming up to the show at the show with like with a huge smile on their face, like you're basically doing this for no reason, right?
Yeah.
So like the fact that that happens everywhere, even if it's 5 people, or in other places it's 100 people, or maybe it's one person, right? It's like there's nothing better than touring because of that.
Yeah.
And it's the funnest shit of all time because you're just literally seeing everything that you're doing and everything you're thinking about every single day, like work in front of your eyes, right?
It's amazing. Yeah.
But yeah, it's very hard, very hard. It's stressful. Trust me.
Yeah, all those things mixed together, I could imagine create some pretty crazy stories. Anything that sticks out in that perspective that you want to share?
That might be a whole new podcast, bro.
Yeah.
We've had some times. We've had some hiccups. We totaled our van last tour in DC in the snowstorm. That's a whole story. We've had so many just mishaps at like these shitty hotels that we're paying for because it's all I can afford. So many just like weird motherfuckers that show up to shows and you're just like, what the hell? This guy's on some shit, you know? Like just like there's so many, bro. I can't even begin. Like
I
it's
can
just all
imagine.
day,
Yeah,
bro. It's just all day, just fuckery. Like it's crazy.
that's crazy. You ever thought about bringing like something I just thought of, like bringing like a camera crew with you just to like capture all that?
Bro, we have it. We have
Yeah.
it. All.
Yeah.
So I did a series the past 2 tours. It's called Touring Matters, and it's basically just like, yeah, everyday bullshit. And I have my guy Kirk documenting everything. He's the fucking best.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's there, and there's a lot that we couldn't put on YouTube.
Yeah.
It exists.
I was doing more research on you, and did I read it right that you opened for John Bellion?
Yes, I did.
That's actually crazy. I read that, I was like, whoa, that's nuts. Because like I'm a big John Bellion fan. Our one roommate Joey is a huge John Bellion fan.
Yeah, he's John's incredible, man. I was actually the first person ever to open for him.
Damn,
because
crazy.
It was his first show on his first tour, and it was just me and him. It was sold out in Boston. I was opening, he was headlining, that was it. And it was fucking crazy, man. Because especially at that time, that was 2014. He was like just my idol, straight up. Like he was just, like, this dude's the greatest of all time. Everyone, like, go fuck yourself if you don't agree. Like, this dude's the best. So, so like, I was in sound check at that show, and you know, just figuring it out. This is before I had a band. I was just me and my homie who was DJing, aka just press and play. And I like was not a great singer at the time, admittedly. Like I didn't know if I was good or bad, but I was like trying to figure it out, right? And I was checking this one song where it was like the most like R&B and like vocal thing that I had in my set at that moment. John and his band walk in. It is the sound check, so there's no one there. I mean, you guys have been around for sound check. It's fucking dead quiet other than you. So John and his band walk in, and I see them. They're in the back of the room, and I was like, holy shit. I'm like, yo, that's fucking them right there. And I'm on stage singing, thinking about this, and they all just stop, and they just watch me. And I'm like, they fucking think I suck for sure. Like, you know what I mean? So I get off stage. I'll finish sound check. I go over there, and they're all just like, dude, you sounded great. Like, so cool that you're here, and like, thanks for opening for us and all this shit. I'm like, what the hell? Like, you don't. Why are you thanking me for opening for you? Like, this is the best day of my life, bro. You know what I mean? But yeah, he's just like the nicest dude of all time. And
Yeah.
I kind of stayed in contact a little bit with his bass player named Dre. And next time they came to Boston, they were playing a much bigger venue because they had they struck lightning, you know, like they went crazy. It was a very quick like upgrade in venue, like it was like just
Yeah.
but yeah, next time they came back, like they invited me to come hang out and they played at Paradise Rock Club, and I went to the show and like kicked it with them. Like they're just cool as hell. Like I definitely don't know them now, but I bet you they would like know me if they saw me. Like if I ran into them, they would probably
That's,
know. They're just that type of people, you know what I
yeah.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome though.
I took a lot from that, just like on the way. Like I treat other artists like whether they're opening for me or whatever. Like if I'm ever on the other side of that fence, like I try to like, you know, look people in the eyes and remember their names and like just be
Yeah,
grateful for the situation because obviously not every artist is like that. Like people don't
for
give a
sure.
fuck for the most, you know?
Yeah.
Especially if you're like below them, you know what I mean? They're just like, all right, dude, get the fuck out of here. Like let's get it going, you know?
Well, I think that's
But
important that, you realize that like John and his whole crew is doing that, and then you're mimicking that behavior because the next person that you do that for is gonna be like, wow, like, Dylan was so
yeah,
nice, so down to earth, he remember, just a great guy, and then they're gonna want to do that. And it just is kind of like a chain reaction.
yeah, for sure, man. And like the reason why I love John so much is much beyond like the songs he makes. You know, he has great character and he just carries himself a certain way, and that's like something I strive for beyond like the art itself.
Hmm.
He's just a
For sure. So kind of switching gears a little bit. You touched on earlier about like the whole like marketing promotion type like side of the music industry. So like how important is like the internet and social media and like promoting your music and building your brand?
it's everything, man. Obviously I talked about that like kind of one-on-one fan interaction at shows and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like that's the best way to do it, and that's like the most effective way to make people kind of latch on to what you have going on. But that's impossible to do that at scale. Like it'd be like you trying to go around New York door to door and be like, hey, are you a fan of my music? And everybody's like, who the fuck are you? You know what I mean? Like that would never work.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of just play the numbers game and use the internet to leverage more and more people to at least see what you have going on, and then they can kind of decide, whether they care or not.
For sure.
Yeah, man. I mean, that goes back to even when I had just MySpace and Facebook. Like I was using those things to like get in front of people's faces, whether it was like obnoxious or like good branding. It definitely wasn't. It was like I was doing it in a way that was so dumb. But I still understood that it was like this is how I'm gonna reach people. I'm not gonna go outside and freestyle in the park and like be famous because someone signs me. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
just have to go get it. Uh, so yeah, man. I mean, it's everything. And I have handful of friends, like dozens of friends that make money on the internet because their music has touched X amount of people.
Right.
And it's kind of if you're not adapting to it, it's kind of just like basically have no shot,
Yeah.
like
So
I'm just now getting to that point where like labels and whatnot are like taking notice of what's going on and like having those conversations like to some for some and I have millions and millions of streams and I've done X amount of tours by myself and all this, right? And it's been 10 years, like you were saying. Like for you to think like, oh yeah, I've been making music for 2 years, like I have a hot song, like LA Reid's just gonna find this and give me a call. Like it's just it's just delusional, like
yeah,
you have to create your own situation and then people will be like, oh, like what's going on here? Like there's a fire going on. How do we
for sure.
add flame to it or put it out or whatever?
Yeah. Well, I think building brand is like everything. You know what I mean? Like in
Definitely.
your one song in Switch, you said you're the Gary Vee of rap. And actually
I am.
I tweeted it.
Hell
I
yeah.
tweeted it. So like do you watch Gary Vee a lot? Like I would assume.
I don't anymore, actually. I haven't watched it in years, but
Yeah.
I was big on it like when he first came out, and it was mostly just his like mindset, and it was, it's different when applied to music, obviously, but it was basically just like be undeniable and just do something over and over and over again until it's right, and just don't give a fuck. Like he always says, like people are like too fancy, like they have like
Yeah.
too big of an ego to be like, oh, I don't want to put this out because I'll fail, or I don't want to try starting this business because it's going to cost this much and it's a scary, it's risk, and I might have to ask for a favor. I might have, it's like, don't be fucking fancy. Like no one gives a shit. Just go do it. It's either going to work or it isn't, and basically just hold yourself accountable, right? And that's
For
just kind of
sure.
like something I totally grasp towards, because it's like, yeah, well, Gary, I've already been doing this for 6, 7 years, at that time when I first saw him. And now, it's a little over the top. He's definitely exaggerating it in his content now. And I've kind of just fell out of it where I don't necessarily need to see that. I kind of already live with that perspective, like in me.
Right.
Uh, but that line was just easy because now everybody knows who that is. So it was like, let me just
Yeah.
throw that in there.
Oh, for sure. I think, you're kind of like a perfect example how like he says all the time, like you got to be willing to eat shit for like however long
100%.
it takes. And not saying you ate shit or anything like that, but you were
Oh, no,
you
I
were
did.
grinding for
Definitely
10,
did.
you know what I mean? You've been in it for 10 years. And like you said, people see like these mainstream guys now and they're like they just kind of assume that like, oh, like they just started, or like I think people kind of just assume that,
Yeah.
just because I'm just hearing about this guy now doesn't mean he hasn't been working for however long, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Releasing music on SoundCloud, or you just didn't hear him. You know what I mean?
Even like someone like G-Eazy, like people are just like, yeah, G-Eazy's like some new cat. It's like this dude had 12 albums out or something crazy. Like, he was
Yeah.
doing it for well over a decade before anyone started giving a fuck. And that's just because his his brand wasn't as strong at first. He didn't have a direction of music. There was a lot of things that he was just learning in that process, and it's like that's the same shit that I did, or even like Russ, like
I was just
Russ
gonna
wasn't
say, yeah,
putting music out all the time, but it's like he was making beats for years and years and just learning shit. No one
yeah,
knew or cared. And that's basically just what it takes if you want to put yourself in a position of leverage to like actually be successful, because I could go sign a record deal tomorrow, but it's like that doesn't mean it's gonna leave me in a good spot. Like, it's not. There's just so many parts of that people don't
yeah,
think about or like consider. They're just like, oh yeah, it's cool. Like just need to get signed and that's it.
for sure.
No, he said he signed it. Juice,
Huh?
What's that?
Juice, Juice World always said. He goes, when I signed my contract, I signed my life away. He didn't want,
Yeah,
want
that's
to.
how it's how it is sometimes, and that's because I don't think he had that type of leverage going into it. It was just like, all right,
Because lot of
I can
these
start here.
a lot of these labels get these kids when they're young, and they
Yeah,
say, "Oh, here's $5-10 million because you're unreal.
yeah,
Come on!" And then they're all like, "Oh shit!" Then they get all the money, they do something stupid, and then they're fucked. And
yeah,
then they don't
because you got to
contract.
pay that money back one way or another. That's why motherfuckers be dropping 40-track albums. It's like,
For sure. Yeah,
um,
I mean, like I've heard like some of those guys like in that realm, like Juice World, guys like that. They say like those contracts they're written, they call like Spanglish, because like they're
mm,
so young, and they hand them this contract, and they don't have a manager. They're probably reading it themselves. You know what I mean? And there's probably
yeah,
all these
well,
provisions, and they got
get
to
a
read.
lawyer. Get a
You know what I mean?
lawyer.
Yeah,
That's what I can say about that. Always get a lawyer.
yeah.
Always.
But I feel bad for some of them because like they probably like Jordan was saying, here's $10 million. You know what I mean? Just sign this contract. You're like, oh, bet. You know?
Yeah, 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 man. It's uh, it's a crazy game, but I think if you play the long game and like just bet on yourself, you'll pretty much always be in a better spot, unless like you are not good, and you'll know that, and then you'll go do something else.
Yeah, for sure.
Placing a bet.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, what's next? What's next for you? What's next for Dylan Reese? What are you looking to do next in your career?
I'm gonna run for president in November.
President
Um,
2020, Reese.
um, so I'm dropping this next project on August 7th. These last 4 songs that I put out are like the singles for it. Just 7 tracks, so 4 are already out. But basically, just wanted to do a slow roll on like the brand because this is like in the rap space. Um, this is Rap Dylan 2. It's obviously the beginning of a series. I did Rap Dylan 1 last year, and I basically just wanted to do that because I was only doing R&B stuff for a minute, like a few years, and like we talked about before, like through collaboration, because I was working with a ton of rappers and like singing hooks on their songs or like touring with them or whatever. I got a lot of those fans that were kind of new to like what I do, right? And like I just wanted to like let everybody know that I will also out rap everybody here, and to just make that clear. So basically, that's why I did the first Rap Dylan project. It was kind of just like, also I can do this if I want, type of thing. And I didn't really put too much thought into it. Like I made that project in like a week, and I kind of just threw it out just to like as a like, yeah, it's there. You know what I mean? Like I can do this too. But people ended up liking it a lot, and I think that's because I just have a lot of fans that are more rap fans than anything else because of collaboration and touring and stuff. And it kind of just happened naturally. Um, so I decided, no, why not? I can make rap music pretty easily. And now that I'm kind of looking at everything from like I said before, like kind of like through a pop lens, and like I'm gonna craft like some of the best songs within the rap genre that I can, and like do that as like number two. And I'll give people Rap Dylan 3 next year or whatever. I'll do one a year till the end of time. I don't care. I can make rap music all the time. Like it's easy. So it's just some fun music. And it's less of like telling my story, like I was saying, like with the Pretty Pretty album and whatever's next, Morning Coffee before that, kind of like the more soulful R&B stuff. Lean on those to kind of tell my story, and then I'm dipping into the rap shit to just have fun, collab with some people, and just try different stuff. So that full project will be out August 7th. Um, After that, I've got a couple songs coming out with my boy Abstract, that we'll be putting out through my homie's label. Those are made for like sync licensing, like basically like movies and film, commercials, stuff like that. So that's kind of like another space where it took a lot of learning and just like the way of writing that way. And that's through my homie. His name's Out of Sight. One of my best friends, and like he's been a really good like kind of like mentor, especially in that space, because he's had a ton of success in that world. So that'll be exciting to try to like try my hand in that as well. And then yeah, I don't know what's after that. We'll kind of, I don't know. We've got some things up in the air right now, and depending on how those go, we'll kind of determine like what I put out next. But I have a ton of music, so there will be no shortage. That's for sure. There will never be a shortage.
For sure.
For sure. That's good. That's always good to hear.
Yeah, I like how you have everything. You like, at least for it seems for the foreseeable future, you have at least a plan.
Always, man. You got to.
Yeah.
Always at least like a couple months. Um, I can't tell you what the end of the year is going to look like. I know I won't be on tour this whole year, which honestly, like I've kind of enjoyed this time off where it's like I don't have to think about all that stuff, and I can just focus like, here's the music I want to make, here's other things that I could be doing, whatever it is, like just kind of spreading my attention a little bit and like really figuring out what's best for like my business, and not like chasing the next touring opportunity just because like I'm trying to apply that pressure in that world, because it's just such a different thing, like there's a lot of people that can stream well and can't sell tickets. There's a lot of people that can sell really well on the road, but like not a lot of people are streaming them on Spotify or whatever, right? So it's like you got to almost treat them separately, and that's what I've been trying to do. And I'm still kind of new, even though I've toured a ton. I'm still kind of new in that world. Like I know how to put out music, and I know how to get people to listen to it, and it's always just gonna keep growing, right? Like that's something that I wouldn't say I've mastered it, but it's like that's kind of like it comes easy. Like I can do that all day, right? Touring shit, super hard to get people to shows, super hard to get people to come buy merch, right? And we're starting to figure it out, and we got some momentum. But it's been good to kind of take a break from that, and like, especially with no agent, it's hard because you're always just trying to like check in with people. It's all like relationships. Like, oh, you got tour coming up? You got this coming up? I can help you here. I can sell tickets in these markets. I can do this, blah blah blah. I can help you get a photographer if you can put me on extra shows. Or it's just so much like back and forth, and you're doing that like with a dozen people at a time. So this little break during COVID, obviously it's not a good thing. COVID is not a good thing, but it's been kind of helpful in that way where I can kind of take a step back and like just let things kind of happen, and hopefully put myself in a better spot so when tours do start back up, I'll be in a better place and I'll have new relationships and I'll be ready to go. People will be ready to see us rather than like, all right, I'm coming back to your city at this time, and just
For sure.
it's a lot.
Yeah.
A lot to think about.
Yeah, it's a business. It's definitely a business being in the music industry.
Yeah.
Being an
Especially
artist
if you want to do it yourself.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. But thank you so much for being on.
Absolutely.
I
Is that
agree.
it?
I think that's all we got for
Cool.
everything. But
It's about a cool hour 15.
yeah,
Okay, cool.
to all our listeners, Dylan Reese on what you're on Spotify. You're on all the streaming platforms. I would assume Spotify, Apple Music, all that
Hopefully
good stuff.
so. Or somebody's about to get fired.
You want to shout out like your social media too? We'll put that all in the description. But everything.
Yeah, it's just Dylan Reese Music everywhere. Same handle in every space. So look me
Great.
up, you can find me pretty easily.
Yes,
And
sir.
thanks again for having me on the show, guys. I appreciate it. It was a good
Yeah,
conversation.
man. Yeah, I'm super grateful that you took the time to come out and not come out, but go on your laptop.
Yeah.
Staying in.
Yeah.
For sure,
Thank you.
for sure.